Hello, wherever you're tuning in from, this is the Investors Corner, where we explore hidden treasures. My name is Stephen Ugut. And in this edition of today, I am glad to be joined by the Minister of Investment, Dr. Dhieu Mathok. Briefly about this ministry, it's a ministry that came as a result of the revitalized peace agreement that was signed in September the 12th, 2018. And we all know that Investment News was initially an investment authority, and as a result of that, it became a ministry as a result of that agreement. And on February 2020, he was appointed as the first minister in this Ministry of Investment. Honorable Minister, first, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Yes. Precisely last year, around this time in December, you held a press conference. And in the press conference, you made some pledges and some promises that this ministry is planning to do this particular year that we are ending now. And to be specific, in your press conference, you mentioned that 2021, which is this year, was to be a year of investment. And you lined up a number of things that are to be done within this year. To mention a few, the trade and exhibition, of which we have seen two so far from Sudan and Egypt. And we are anticipating another one also to be done. You have also mentioned that there is going to be a conduct of investment mapping, in your own words, which is an atlas to round up the places for investors to concentrate, as well as investment tower to set up a building where the ministry will be based, as well as an investment conference to conclude this year, which you mentioned as the year of investment. These words were your very own words, some of which came to light and some have not, but the year is ending. Could you quickly take us through what you meant when you made that press statement?
First of all, thank you so much, Teg, and I want to appreciate the SSBC for initiating this program, the Investment Corner. And I want you to reach out to the investors such that they can be able to explain the difficulties and challenges that are facing them. And I think it will be better for us to listen to the investors themselves about the challenges and opportunities we are in South Sudan. So I want to appreciate the program, and I want to welcome you and your team to Ministry of Investment. As you said correctly, last year we made a press conference and we identified a number of issues which we are anticipating in order for us to implement them. and we went very well, actually. The plans were approved by the Council of Ministers, and some of them we started implementing them that are actually meant to highlight the investment opportunities in South Sudan. It is true that we in the Ministry of Investment, we have projects which are meant for the investment year. And likewise, there are other projects of the investment year being conducted by the line ministries. And many of them were actually implemented. We in the Ministry of Investment, as you have said, we conducted almost 2 exhibitions. We participated in the African investment agencies in Cairo. We were effectively participated. We also try very much to establish the institution by now forming a committee which is now working for recruitment. The recruitment board is formed, and we are on line in this issue such that we can be able to establish the ministry. The projects which were meant they were actually sequential in their implementation because you cannot talk of investment conference without conducting the investment mapping, the atlas. This is really important, and this is the guide which actually can now allow us to call the investors to come and see what are the opportunities which are available in South Sudan. We were encountered by the challenges, financial difficulties, and this is something which is not only affecting the Ministry of Investment, but I believe it is the country. The budget was approved, and it lined up since that time to be implemented such that we can be able to identify the companies which are actually ready, and they pledge already in order to conduct this investment mapping. So we are still waiting from the Minister of Finance, such that the budget which were actually approved is implemented, and we start actually doing investment mapping. The investment tower has a plan. It went very far. We met with the Minister of Finance how it should be financed. As I said last time, there were the partners which are willing to help South Sudan in constructing this investment tower. The Minister of Finance put it in their plan on the next budget, which actually 2022, such that they can be able to release what is supposed to be released by the government, and also put it as a part of the pledges that normally are done by the donors and the development partners of South Sudan. And I believe these things is going on. It will be realized in 2022. The programs which are aligned with the line ministries, for example, we have exhibition which is now going on in Dubai. South Sudan is participating. There is an agent which actually doing the exhibition, and we have a corner. I thought the team from the media, especially SSBC, would have visited Dubai, say that to see by themselves the corner of South Sudan in the 2020 Expo in Dubai. So this is one of the key projects for investment year. Also, you have noted, and you were part of it, there was an exhibition which was made by the Minister of Tourism, Honorable Rizix, and the team from South Sudan. They went and participated in Arusha, displaying the opportunities which are available as far as the tourism concern. And this is part of the investment year. It was really well received and acknowledged by the East African. I have seen over SSBC the activities which were actually done there. There are also a lot of activities which were conducted by the line ministers, like the Minister of Agriculture participated in a number of investment workshop and investment exhibitions, the Minister of Agriculture, and the other line ministries.
Let's take them one by one now for clarity, for the sake of clarity for our viewers and audience. Some of these issues that you mentioned, like the mapping and the tower, some of them, as you mentioned, are still facing some shortcomings in meeting the deadline that you have set. Could you tell us what could be the main challenge that is facing mapping, for instance? Why is it so difficult for your ministry to use the current budget that you have to conduct mapping? Because I don't think it will cost a lot for ministry to conduct the mapping.
The budget for the mapping is a bit higher, to make a mapping for the resources for the entire country. We call it Atlas because it is not about the resources alone, but the peculiarities of the country itself, including climate. These are things that we need actually to do them. So the Minister of Finance is supposed to finance that program, which is in our budget. But as you know, there are a lot of difficulties we are facing. Sometimes our employees are difficult to get their salaries on time. So sometimes you will see the priority is being given to Chapter 1 more than developmental projects which are supposed to be funded. We were anticipating that the development partners would help us, especially in financing those projects. The partners should understand that for us to have stability in this country and to fight poverty and even the conflict which is now taking place in many parts of South Sudan, it is better for all of us to embark on development. And this is where we can actually do better. Instead of funding the reliefs, in funding the humanitarian, we can also finance the developmental projects, which are meant actually to reduce the violence and the conflict.
So the challenge you're mentioning is because the funding
of the project. Yes. And that money, they are not here with us in the Ministry of Investment. Okay. They must have to be approved and released by the government, especially the Ministry of Finance.
What about the basic things like restructuring the ministry? This also you mentioned in your press conference that it was a priority that the Ministry of Investment, since it's a new ministry, it needs to be restructured by employing staff and redistributing staff. Has this thing been made?
It is supposed to take place since I believe since October, and the committee is established, but also they have a challenge of facilitation. They prepare their budget, and then I believe the Undersecretary submitted to Finance for the committee to work. The committee is not basically from this Ministry of Investment. It is a multidisciplinary committee, which actually some members they come from the different institutions like the public service and finance itself. So the committee also is facing challenge of funding, and I believe that the Ministry of Finance, they promise that they will finance the work of the committee before end of this year, which I believe that if we do it, it's far better. So there is already a process going on.
Yes, the other point also that was in your agenda during your press conference of last year was that your new ministry would strive to push with the reconstituted Transitional National Legislative Assembly to enact and most probably identify investment laws that need to be reviewed and revisited. As we speak right now, the parliament has been reconstituted. It is now started its session. Have you made an effort to push these laws that need to be reviewed?
I think all laws are actually queue. They are waiting for the parliament. The parliament, as you said, it was inaugurated 2 months ago, and they were establishing themselves, first of all, by having a legal entity as a parliament. They must have to pass their own laws, the conduct of the business. They must have also to establish their specialized committees, which are actually meant to now supervise the work of the ministries. These are still not being finalized in the parliament. So the roles are ready, and we have seen many laws. Maybe the government is prioritizing now the security laws, and we have seen them. They were passed by the Council of Ministers, and they are supposed now to go to the parliament.
But Honorable Minister, this Ministry of Investment is a ministry, as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, that came as a result of the Revitalized Peace Agreement. And as we speak, Revitalized Peace Agreement is supposed to have elapsed by 2023, which is in about, if we consider this December as the end of this year, is just about a year away. If we are a year away from the end of this transition period, that means it's likely that we may end up reaching the end of the transition before achieving the core values of your Ministry of Investment. In such a scenario, what happens? We move to a new chapter without implementing this key.
The Ministry of Investment is part and parcel of the government of the Republic of South Sudan, and there are priorities in this government which we believe that they need to be implemented. As I told you, that now the government is prioritizing the security laws, and we have seen them. They were passed by the cabinet, waiting to go to amendment of the security laws, the SSPDF law, the law of the police, the one of the prison. All these security laws, they were passed, and they are now queue for them to go to the assembly. Automatically, as you said, but I believe that the 12 months is a huge time, There is a lot of work waiting our assembly in order to do that.
It could be huge and it could be short as
because,
well.
Because
honorable
the focus here.
Hold that thought.
Let me clarify this point.
We'll be back shortly after this break to take it up. We are going for a short break. Stay tuned. Investors Corner will be back shortly. There are plenty of investment opportunities in this world's youngest nation of South Sudan. To better understand the economy and explore the thriving market of this country, you ought to get out of your comfort zone. You either hustle under the scorching sun in Konyo Konyo market, run errands at a small or medium business enterprise, or better yet, chair a conglomerate board meeting at a high-end tower in Juba. While awaiting an official business trip to the region. Whatever you do, just don't rest. Work hard, think big, and be smart in order to count all your economic blessings through this weekly business show of the Investor's Corner, exploring hidden treasures. Join us every week at this time. Welcome back. This is the Investor's Corner, where we explore hidden treasures. I am your host, Tex Stephen Ogut. And as I mentioned before the break, I am joined by the Minister of Investment, Dr. Dhieu Mathok. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Before I interrupted you, sorry for that. You were talking about explaining the time limit, the 12 months that is remaining, and the things that needs to be implemented.
Actually, I was saying that the 12 months is a huge time, and many laws actually they are laws which were there just need amendment of some of the provisions. For example, the case of the Ministry of Investment is just only to change from the authority to the investment. These are articles which actually need to be amended. So I don't think that when the law is meant for amendment, I think that it's not going to take a lot of time, and it is not a big job for the assembly for them to do them within 1 year. The problem now is when the assembly is going to start actually the normal business of enacting those laws, because in the cabinet I have seen many laws were passed and they were waiting for the assembly to pass them, So the time is enough. We can do them within this.
Yes, I mentioned the crucial and the importance of time in this factor, because not only that Ministry of Investment is a creation of the Revitalized Peace Agreement. As you mentioned, the ministry or the investment as it is an institution of government that has been in existence before. We knew it was under the Ministry of, for one time it was under the Ministry of Finance, for the other time it was under the Ministry of Trade, but now it's standing on its feet. And as many people would believe that now is the right time for the Ministry of Investment that is standing on its feet as a ministry to establish most of these particular things that they need to establish, because tomorrow if the RRCS concludes, it is highly likely it might be, reintegrated to one other ministry, which will be just a subsidiary, which will be difficult as a subsidiary to implement certain laws. Don't you think that is a crucial time right now?
The things which are concerning us in the Ministry of Investment, actually, we have finished our responsibility. This is a collegial work of the government, and the institutions actually they work together. What is actually to be done by the leadership of this ministry, we did it. It finished from our side. But also, we believe that the government has a lot of priorities which they want to do, and this is what where I was saying that there are many laws which are supposed to be passed. We in the Ministry of Investment, what is actually important, because you mentioned very important point that the time of the revitalized agreement is elapsing. It doesn't have big relations with the time of the revitalized agreement. It can, some of the projects and programs, they will continue even beyond the time of the revitalized agreement, and not necessarily to be implemented by myself or other colleague who is now in this ministry. But these are the projects which are going to be there, and they must have to be implemented. And I believe that the leadership of this ministry is keen to see into it that all these things are done.
And Honorable Minister, when this institution was an authority, it was establishing investment certificate to investors and business people, a sole role that is now would have been transferred to the ministry. I believe it's still conducting, but there are cases that are now rising that there are forged documents of investment that are being issued to business people and all this. What is the genesis of this, and how best can it be resolved?
We are doing our best in order for us to make reforms in this ministry. And I believe it is not only the Ministry of Investment that have a lot of challenges as far as these problems of the malpractices concerned. There are similar cases in many institutions. But in our side, now we have picked the responsibility and we are trying to correct the situation. It is true, as you said, there were malpractices. The forms are being produced outside and they were stamped and the money are being collected outside, even coming to the ministry. We realized this recently and we have taken measures. Now the case is before the court and the court is looking at this. There were people who were accused, some of them were senior personnel in this ministry, and they are now in the court in order to defend themselves. The court is going to judge. But in our part now, we design a new form. We design a new form with the features that cannot be, again, tampered with it. And we are going, in January, we are going to request for the general registration. General registration, we are going to request it because we realize that even there are so many companies. Some are national and some are foreign national, which are operating without being authorized by investment. And this is again law. Anybody who is investing in this country, whether it's a national or a foreigner, has to get an investment certificate. And we are going to look into this.
The fact that each and every economic institution has to issue its own certificate. Don't you think this is the reason why there are such loopholes in the first place? Because if we are talking about a one-stop shop, where to make it easy for business people to establish in South Sudan, everything have to be centralized, and you have certain institutions pulling ropes in, issuing certain certificates for their own institutions, which is which?
You are right. Now, as we speak, there are more than 28 certificates to certified investor in order to invest in South Sudan. This is irrelevant completely according to our laws and regulations. And we are going to regulate this. We are going to narrow down the certification of investment based on the laws of South Sudan. Anything which contradict constitution and contradict the law, we are going to cancel it. We are trying also to establish the investment one-stop shop, where the all institutions operate in the one place. We want to see the other experiences, the neighboring countries, how actually they deal with the investment, how they treat investors, because we are in the market competing with others, and we want to attract the investor to come to South Sudan. For this, we must have to be smart, and we must have also to align our regulations to the regulations of competitors. And this is what we are working on it. We identified the problems on this, and we are now trying to work out how we should actually address all these issues.
But the fact that you are still saying one-stop shop for investment, don't you think a one-stop shop in its term should be a general for the whole economic sector of the country, where you have one particular institution that investment, if it has anything to be done, should be falling within that, and instead of moving for investor to move from one institution to another, because this in one way or another it discourages the investment. And as you mentioned, the comparison to the region. In the region there are laws that are actually favorable for investment and all this. Are there things that are set up in South Sudan that would make it favorable for somebody who wish to invest, like maybe, for example, a grace period for those who are taking tax, or the tax holiday, and reduction of exemption of certain items from taxation? These are strategies that are used, to influence and attract investors. Is it being put in place in South Sudan?
The similar example is which is around us. We have it in South Sudan, but it is not being actually enforced as an institution that can actually do the work of the investment. The idea of the one-stop shop is that all institutions which are doing investment, they must have to be in one office, which is meant by to be managed by the Ministry of Investment, whether it is the custom, whether it is tax, or whether it is any unit that actually working, any sector that working in investment, whether it is agriculture, whether it is mining, whether it is petroleum, all this, they should have to be in one-stop shop.
But why must it be under investment? Why must it be underinvestment? Because some other
that is the law. We are talking about
economic institutions.
We are talking about the law.
I'm saying this, Honorable Minister, with all due respect, because as we speak right now, there are some pulling of rope between ministries, government institutions. When we speak about this, for example, a mere example is the exhibition. You have the Ministry of Investment, which says they are the sole institution that should conduct exhibition. We have the Ministry of Trade, which says they are the one who should conduct investment. These things are all over in the talk of the town and in the media. How can we best address this? Because at the end of the day, this is all the same government.
We must have to actually consider our laws and regulations and the boundaries in those laws are really very clear, and it is when you start undermining the law which is governing your operation, this is where you make a mistake. We in the investment, we know our role according to the law of this governing these institutions, and this law is part of the laws of South Sudan. We are not operating outside our boundary. We are doing exactly what the law said. And we want to remind others also that they must have to look into their laws, what their law says, and operate within that parameter. Assuming things is not a government business. We should not work in that way. We must have to look into our laws, and then this is what is actually governing us. What we are doing in the Ministry of Investment is what in the law. Yes. And I challenge anybody that's saying that the exhibition for the foreign companies which are coming to see opportunities of the investment in South Sudan is not the responsibility of the Ministry of Investment. I'm not talking because there is, this important area, and we must have to clarify it. I'm not talking about general exhibition. There are part of exhibition that we don't take part of it. The exhibition which actually are meant to sell the product of South Sudan, they are done by the different institutions, are not our responsibility. We can participate. Like exactly what Rizik did. Exactly. When he went for the exhibition, and then he tried to take one of our staff to go and talk about the opportunities which are available. So this is the nature of the exhibitions. Yes. The one we have been conducting is a sole responsibility of the Ministry of Investment.
It would be, the best forum would be to tackle these issues where other institutions would be in a position to, also give their opinions. But since they are not, perhaps we can move on, because the interest of the public is to see a harmonized system where all the government institutions work together in the interest of the country. But for now, let's move on and talk about the issue of the reopening of borders, which was in the headlines some 2-3 months ago before the Sudanese issue. It was almost declared that the border between Sudan and South Sudan was going to be open. What happened?
What happened is the situation in Sudan, because it was actually planned to be open in 1st of October this year, and then it was pushed for 16 due for the situation in Sudan, because there was a political instability in Sudan, and the leadership of the country were focusing on how they should contain that problem. So it was postponed to 16, and then again on 16 there were the situation increases and escalated, led to the collapse of the government in Sudan. So the opening of the borders could not take place. But it is a plan which I believe that if Dr. Abdallah Hamdok appoint his government, automatically this activity is going to take place. We in South Sudan, we are ready. Already we identified around 4 borders which are going to be open, plus the river and the railway. So we are ready, waiting for the stability of the Sudan and the appointment of the government.
And something I wanted to raise in this topic is the the issue of the name and the image of the country outside our borders. We all know that as a result of the conflict that happened in this country for the past couple of years, the image is quite tainted enough outside our country. And it is role and responsibility of institutions such as yours to, change this kind of image outside the country. What are the attempts and the efforts that your ministry and other concerned line ministries are doing to, first of all, improve the image of South Sudan, and secondly, brand the country, South Sudan, as a product outside, to boost the interest of investors?
The problem which are actually affecting our image and the investment are basically internal problems. And if we try our level best to improve situation internally, this conflict among our communities, which is taking place from here and there, trying also to work together as a government of national unity, because we are implementing the peace agreement. Nowadays, there is a lot of move in the region on how we should speed up the implementation of the Chapter 2, which is actually key chapter in the agreement, revitalized agreement. The government is actually working hard to see into it that the forces are graduated from their training site, and the other phase which is not being brought to the cantonment, they must have to come. And I believe that by doing all these activities, we would have been improving our image. We can talk as a Minister of Investment, we can make the presentation outside, but if the situation inside is not improved, then automatically it's going to be very difficult for us to attract the investors.
I was interested in asking you about your role as part of the mediation team of South Sudanese that is mediating the Sudanese conflict, and how your team is looking into the new development now that is happening in Sudan. But maybe not to deviate from the main topic, which is investment here. I would like to leave it there, but give you an opportunity to give your takeaway points as we conclude.
The insecurity in Sudan, we view it as a South Sudanese has insecurity in South Sudan, because we have a lot of commonalities. We share many things. We sell our product through Sudan, that is the oil. We have a very long border that actually, if that country is not stable, automatically it will backfire. You have seen when the community in Port Sudan closes the port, the threat which actually pose on our exportation of the petroleum. So these are challenges that also we need to manage. We need to give also our attention to Sudan side that is stable. The president is playing a lot of role. We have seen how actually he intervened in order to bring the parties again to the transition, in order to work together and then have a stable government which actually can resume the normal function. So the government of South Sudan and the President Salva is doing this.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Dhieu Mathok, the Minister of Investment, for giving us your time.
Thank you so much, Tek. I appreciate your presence here with your team.
And this brings us to the end of our episode of the Investors Corner. I've been your host, Tek Stephen Good, wishing you a very good time.